Hey guys, what's going on? This is Travis P11 and I'm back with you here. Today guys, this is a video that is long overdue. First of all, thank you again to Daniel Pfeiffer for sending me this Frog Lube. He sent me some solvent and also the CLP. This was a video that I wanted to make a couple months ago, but about a month ago I started making a ton of videos trying to use as much range time as I possibly could before school started back up, because as I had mentioned before, I'm a teacher and it's hard for me to get out to the range, so I wanted to maximize my range time. Well, now I've got some time for some tabletops, some time to do some little projects, DIY stuff on the guns, etc. And a couple months ago, Daniel sent me this Frog Lube CLP and also the cleaning solvent. And to do this process, I'm actually going to be basically taking a page right out of the book from one of my favorite YouTube channels, Jay Dalton. I've been watching Jay Dalton's gun videos for years. He's one of my favorite content creators on YouTube, especially when it comes to just honest reviews on guns and range videos and how-tos and so on. And he did a video on a chrome pistol. I can't remember if it was a 32 ACP or a 22 or a 380. But anyway, it's very similar to this Jimenez JA22 that I have here. And the reason why I'm doing this on such a small pistol is, well, for one thing, it's all metal. I don't have to worry about any kind of a polymer lower. And also, I wanted just kind of a simple pistol to start off with, nothing too big. And this thing actually starts to carbon foul after about 125 to 150 rounds at the range using traditional CLP. So it's one of those guns that I think could definitely use some enhanced lubrication or some sort of a product that's maybe going to keep it running longer. Maybe that carbon fouling, that spent powder won't stick to the parts like it normally does. We'll see if I can run a little bit longer before I start to have problems, and I'll do a little range test with this when I get done. And so I'll be following Jay Dalton's procedure basically just step by step when I go through the whole process of applying Frog Lube to this gun. And I will definitely put a link to Jay's video because I think it's a great resource, or videos to his Frog Lube videos, because he's a great resource for anybody that's thinking about trying this stuff out. And I've heard mixed reactions from people. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm willing to try anything. This basically is kept as my walk the dog backup gun, or sometimes my walk the dog concealed carry if I just need to go around the block, etc. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and try it with this gun. So in order to clean the pistol and the products that we're actually going to use, 70% isopropyl alcohol. Daniel, I know you sent me the cleaning solvent, but I'm going to go ahead and soak the whole gun in this just to make sure it gets a good deep clean, because it's had so many layers of CLP on it and rem oil. I can't imagine how much crud's probably going to come out of it. I will soak this ahead of time. A toothbrush that's been used to clean my guns before, but I'll soak it and basically get it completely cleaned out so it's not applying oil to the gun as I'm applying the Frog Lube. A bristle brush for simply getting into those hard to reach places. And I just have some Q-tips in here that we'll use to clean out the firing pin channel and also to apply the Frog Lube in the barrel. So anyway guys, I think that's pretty much about it. We'll go ahead and get started. Oh, and also I'm going to be using a heating gun, so this thing should heat up a lot faster than it would, say, with just a hairdryer. I'd imagine maybe within a minute or two it's going to be already hot enough for me to apply the CLP. I'm going to get it to the point that it's almost I'm unable to handle it. I want it warm enough so that this stuff really soaks in on the inside. And if I make any mistakes in the process, guys, when you're watching this video, please let me know. Give me some tips and some reminders, especially when it comes to cleaning it after I've taken it to the range. I've watched Jay Dalton's videos and I've heard other people talk about what they do. And if you have any experience with this stuff, just let me know what you think about it, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and run into our first step and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so the first step is to ensure that the firearm is unloaded, and I will be unloading the magazine and taking the rounds out of the magazine and also soaking the magazine in the rubbing alcohol. And also want to check the chamber and ensure that the firearm is unloaded. And it is. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to step number 2. Okay, now that we've ensured that the firearm is in fact unloaded, we'll go ahead and disassemble the firearm. It's always a little bit tricky with this pistol. What you have to do is push forward on the release button on the back, and then also pull the slide back a little bit and up, and it'll come right off the gun. So just a little bit tricky taking that apart. Now this should be fairly clean because I've cleaned it several times. We want to go ahead and take the recoil spring off the barrel. Again, I wanted to start with just a real simple design pistol, nothing too crazy. Go ahead and sit that down here in this little tin, or I'm sorry, in this little pot. Okay, we've got your spring right here, throw that in there. As for the slide, we'll go ahead and take the recoil spring out, your little rear plug off the rear. Okay, take out your recoil spring, also your firing pin, and there's a little indicator. We're just going to let all that soak. Okay, go ahead and take your slide and put that in here. Alright, then go ahead and grab your 70% rubbing alcohol. Now remember, this stuff is going to dry and it's not going to leave any kind of residue. The gun is basically going to be completely dry. Alright, and I am really curious just to see how it's going to run once we get all that lubrication off there, because it's been good. I mean, I really don't have that many problems with it. You start to run into issues, like I said, after about 150 rounds or so. Okay, let's go ahead and just pour that in there. I'm just going to basically soak the whole gun in it, deep clean, get all the crud off of it. We'll come back and brush it off a little bit with the toothbrush. I'm also going to take some of this rubbing alcohol and run it over the toothbrush too. Flip the gun over, flip over the side, make sure everything gets a nice soak going on there. Go. Okay, so we're going to let this sit for about, maybe 20 minutes or so, maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Let it all just kind of get a good soak on. I'll keep flipping it over so that everything gets in there. And we'll take a toothbrush to it here in just a few minutes and scrub it out. Okay, so hang tight. Alright guys, so just a few more little addendums here, a couple things that you might want to add. You want to get yourself a nice bristle brush, make sure you've soaked this in rubbing alcohol so there's no oil left on it. We'll actually use this to apply the Frog Lube inside the barrel. Initially we'll put some on with just a little bit of a Q-tip, and then we'll run the barrel through it. And then after everything has a chance to cool off, once we've heated it, we will run a patch through it. So you're going to need a cleaning rod on standby to do this. So all we're going to do right now is just go ahead and give the metal parts a nice scrub. Brush everything off so that there's no particles, no oil left over. It's perfectly safe to soak the gun in this. The gun is going to dry, and it's not going to have any residue on it. It's going to be completely bone dry. And so that's why it's going to be okay at this point to apply the Frog Lube after we've heated it up. Now I've got my heating gun on standby. You can use a hairdryer if you want to, but it might take a little bit longer. The heating gun is probably going to speed things up for me a little bit. Nothing wrong. You can go any way you want to, okay? Heater gun, or you can go blow dryer. I finally picked one up last summer, so I've got one I can use. Okay, we're just going to brush out the inside of the slide. Outside of the slide, we're actually going to apply the Frog Lube on the inside and the outside, but we'll buff it off on the outside once it has a chance to cool. And we'll put a little bit inside this little ring right here where the barrel goes. Okay, 1 second here. Okay. Again, just keep giving that a good little scrub. Front of the barrel, outside, underside, make sure there's zero oil on it. It's been soaking for a solid 20-25 minutes now, so I'm not too worried about it. I think we're good to go. Firing pin, you don't want any oil whatsoever on your firing pin, or even your springs for that matter. You don't have to worry about it because the movement's going to be basically the barrel on the slide and so on, so the spring is okay if it's going to be dry. You can just brush everything off, make sure you get it nice and... Again, you might want to wear gloves for this if your hands are sensitive to getting dry and stuff from rubbing alcohol. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and come back with our next step here in just a moment. Now, as for the magazine, all I did was dunk the top of it so that the follower and the top of the spring would be in the rubbing alcohol, and then I took it out and just wiped it all off. It's basically dry. I wiped off the outside with some rubbing alcohol also. I didn't want to soak it because I can't really take it apart if I needed to do any kind of lubrication in it at all. So it's just going to be dry on the top, so you don't have to worry about getting any oil in the firing mechanism around that area and so on. So that's what I went ahead and did with the magazine. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is just go ahead and just let everything kind of drain off in the container and go ahead and just set your parts out. And at this point you can start heating everything up if you want to. That's perfectly fine. I apologize if you hear any whining in the background. I got a cat that wants to go outside. We don't want to go outside. Okay, here's our little firing pin spring, recoil spring. Okay, there's the back plug. We're just going to set all this out. We're just going to dry all this off with some paper towels. And then we will go ahead and begin the process of heating everything up, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so I literally just got off the phone with Jay Dalton a couple minutes ago. I was just asking him a few questions about what I should do. One thing you're going to notice is that this is going to change the color of the finish on the outside. When you run that rubbing alcohol on it, it's going to take it back to just maybe more of a matte finish. We will heat this up completely with our heating gun and or hair dryer, depending on what you're using. When we apply this, we can apply it to the outside also, and when you let it sit there, you know, you want to let it sit there and kind of cool down a little bit. And then what you want to do is take yourself a microfiber cloth, and we're going to use that to buff out the outside, and we'll go through and just use it to kind of wipe off the excess on the inside of the slide, and then also a little bit from the outside of the barrel. And you know, when you take it to the range and start shooting it for the first time, it's going to be a little bit different procedure when it comes to maintaining the gun. But basically, as you use the Frog Lube over and over again, eventually you're going to get kind of a nice slick surface that's going to be impregnated into the metal itself. Okay, it's going to fill the pores and season it like a good cast iron skillet, in the words of Jason Dalton. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move on to the process now. We're going to heat up the slide, the lower receiver, this little plug on the back, your little rear slide plug, and that's pretty much going to be about it. So we'll go ahead and move on to that next step. Alright guys, so I'm just going to use the low setting with my 1500 watt Harbor Freight heat gun. I'm going to heat the slide first, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the slide in one step, and then I'll heat the lower and do that in the second step. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to get pretty hot, so make sure you don't burn yourself, alright? Okay, I'm going to let this go for a few minutes. It's going to heat up really quick because, again, it's an all steel slide or aluminum or whatever they make it out of. We're going to get all the different sides to it. Be careful so I don't like melt my countertop here. This thing really puts off a lot of heat. And you want to get down the front of the barrel. Where that little ring is right there, you definitely want to make sure you get some Frog Lube in there. So basically by heating it, you're opening up the pores on the metal, and essentially what that's going to do is allow you to coat those pores with the Frog Lube, and it's then going to kind of seep in sort of like a cast iron skillet and season it, alright? The key is to make sure you got the metal nice and hot. Ooh, man, that's almost too hot to handle. I think we're probably about ready. I've got a dedicated toothbrush that I'll be using to apply the Frog Lube. Oh man, that is hot. Wow. I'm going to let this just sit for a second while I apply this, and being this thing is all metal, it's going to be transferring the heat all the way through. So the whole thing is going to get nice and hot. Okay, I think, yeah, that's probably pretty good. That's like an oven right now. Let's make sure this back area is nice and toasty. Watch me burn my hands. All right, yeah. All right, it's all fun. Kind of make sure that my little bristle brush is nice and dry. I don't want any alcohol on that when I'm using it. There you go. Okay, that is definitely nice and hot. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply just a very thin coat. You don't have to goop this stuff on. We want to make sure that we keep it out of the firing pin channel, and make sure that we're not getting it anywhere else. You know what? We're going to let that just sit for a minute, and we'll go ahead and heat the lower. Wow, that sucker is hot. All right, so here we go. Let's check out the lower now. Even the residual heat, the lower is definitely hot. So we're going to make sure this doesn't get as hot as the slide did. Also, I don't want to melt any of the polymer for this too. So, and again, being that this entire frame is basically all metal, it's going to be okay for us to basically coat the entire frame. I'm going to keep it off the grips. Don't have to worry about that. But there's not a lot of really moving parts in here, so there's not a lot I can really screw up, which again is one of the reasons why I chose this this pistol. Yeah, see, this is not quite as hot as that upper, or the slide. Sorry, I'm using AR talk here. My bad, guys. So it gets nice and warm. There we go. Ooh, again, you want to use some care when you're doing this, because if you use a heat gun, it's going to be nice and hot. Yeah, okay, I think we're good. There we go. And again, that's going to be transferring heat through the entire pistol, because, you know, with the steel, the heat's going to transfer from the molecules heating up. So, man, who'd have thought you're going to get a science lesson today, huh? All right, so we'll go ahead and grab our Frog Lube. And just take just a little bit on the brush, not a ton. Okay, again, we just want to go real light. And just go ahead and apply this to the inside for starters while it cools itself down. So, brush that on the inside. This stuff just melts like butter. It just immediately goes onto it. We will be wiping out the firing pin channel, so it's okay if you happen to get some in there. Put some on the inside here. There we go. And again, you want to make sure you got yourself a fine brush, a small brush that you can use to apply this. Again, we're going to apply it to the outside of the slide, the inside of the slide. Get inside here on both sides of it. Okay, at the top here. I'm just going to set it on a paper towel as soon as I get done. Well, you can definitely smell it. It's definitely got a Ben Gay kind of smell to it. If you were ever an athlete growing up in high school, or if you're getting old like me, you kind of know that kind of peppermint smell going on. There we go. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and coat the outside of it. Again, this is the same amount that I just scooped a little bit out, and that was it. So you can see how far this stuff actually goes when you apply it. Now when this is done, once this cools down and dries off, then we're going to buff it out with a microfiber cloth, okay? Now again, I could be doing this completely wrong. I told Jay Dalton after he gets in and watching my video to leave some feedback, so any feedback he gives me about stuff I did wrong or right, I'm just going to, you know, take his advice because he's been using this stuff for years. There we go. Make sure you got it on the rails, on the tracks there. Get it definitely up in the front there where the firing pin comes out. Okay, it's starting to cool down to the point now that I can actually grab it, but we want to make sure that this doesn't come off the slide, so make sure it's all nice and coated. Now I'm going to take my Q-tip, take a little dab of it here, just a little tiny bit, just barely get any on there, and we're going to go ahead and put that on the inside of the front of the slide here. And then make sure it's on the inside all the way around. I can see it in there, that's definitely good. Okay, inside the little crown right here. And I'm going to apply just a little bit more on the bottom here also, because that does also have contacts. So again, make sure you have that all the way around in there. Just grab just a little bit more. Yeah, that's probably a bit much. There we go. Coat the whole inside of it. Again, this is going to be really hot, so just be ready for that, okay? There we go. So that's pretty good. I can see a nice glaze in there all the way through. Go ahead and rub a little bit on the rails here. At some point I may need to do, you know, a little more of a treatment on this bottom steel here. Here we go. Okay, one last time just to kind of brush them on the top. There we go. Apologize if this is off camera at all. There we go. I have it thicker on the outside than I do on the inside. I want it real light on the inside here, mainly because I don't want to have it all goop up. Okay, so there we go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and set that off to the side, and now we'll go ahead and do the same thing with our lower receiver. Now this is hot. It's not super hot, but it's not uncomfortably hot, but it is hot. You can definitely feel the heat coming off of it. So we will go ahead and begin applying this now to the outside. Again, I'm just using the same amount that was on there that I just added a few seconds ago. Get it right there in the feed ramps. Brush it all across the top and the rear. I'm going to get this all on the frame here. It's going to get a little bit messy, but that's all right. Okay, definitely brush them on the bottom here. And it does. It's just like just hot butter basically. It just goes over everything. All right. Make sure you get on the bottom of the barrel. We'll use our fine brush here in just a second. Here we go. Get that on the bottom. Mag release right there. Again, I wanted to take the JA22 because I wanted to do something real simple that I didn't really have to worry about messing up. It is an important sidearm to me because, like I said, it's kind of one of those go walk the dog real quick around the block kind of carry guns, something that's not your primary concealed carry piece, but it's something that needs to function and work. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and grab my little brush here. Take just a little dab of it. It's like Bob Ross, man. Get a little bit of that Frog Lube green. Put that on there. Put your clouds over there if you want to. I'm just kidding, guys. Not to be creeping you out. I grew up watching Bob Ross, so you know. There we go. Okay, so that's good to go. Gonna put some in the mag well because again that's also all metal. Brush them across the top here. Looks good. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to take just a little tiny dab. Let's see. And I'm going to set that on the plastic and get that out of the way. Put just a little bit right here on the bristles. Just a little tiny bit. And we want to run that into the bore, okay? So go and take your bristle brush with just a little bit on the front. Okay, run that into the bore and just push it all the way through. Pull it out. Here we go. Do that a couple times. Kind of season that bore a little bit. Okay, pull it back out. There we go. Then I'm going to take just a little tiny bit on a Q-tip and just see if I can get this to go through. Little tiny dab, just a dab of it, a little tiny bit, right? And go ahead and just run that through the board. Just kind of get that on the inside. Now there's still stuff coming out of here, but that could be finish. Hopefully it's not spent powder. I did clean the barrel out. Again, use that rubbing alcohol on it. Okay, a little dab behind here where the feed ramps are. Get inside that chamber area. I can already see a light glaze inside the barrel. So when this dries, what we're going to do is we're going to run a dry patch through it to take off any excess that's left over. Okay. And again, let me double check this and make sure that we're good to go. I've been kind of touching the side of it here. I want to make sure that everything's nice and coated. Should be good. It's already starting to dry now, which is cool. It's already starting to kind of get kind of a nice kind of slick black finish to it, which is really cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, okay? And when we come back, we're going to buff it out with a microfiber towel or cloth, whatever you want to call it. And we will go from there. Oh, and then we're also going to go ahead and just light coat on this rear plug that goes up where the slide is, where the striker pokes out, just so you know. So I'm just going to kind of set the gun up right against this over here. There we go. Just let that sit. Oh, it's so slick it doesn't want to sit. All right. So we got this little piece right here. Let's go ahead and just brush this guy off. Yeah, there's still plenty. Like I said, you don't need a lot, man. You could this stuff should last you years if you do it the right way. So I am getting a little bit here in the hole too, but I'll wipe that out with the Q-tip as soon as we get done. So all right, guys, there we go. So we're gonna let everything just have a chance to cool down and dry, and then we'll buff everything out, and we will come back and we'll go from there. So hang tight, guys. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by buffing out the slide with a microfiber towel, and you're going to want to make sure you have a few Q-tips around to kind of get in some of those areas where there might be a little bit of residue left over. So let's go ahead and take the slide and just wipe this off. I let it sit for about an hour, kind of give it an opportunity to get back to room temperature and really soak in. And again, I was told that the first time you take this to the range, you want to definitely make sure you bring this towel with you because it could sweat out some of the excess oil or even some of the excess Frog Lube that's in there. It's making it nice. It's basically restoring the finish to how it was before I put it in the rubbing alcohol. You can see it's got a nice kind of glaze on it. It almost feels kind of a little bit waxy, I guess you could say. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and just take my pinky and just rub out the inside of the slide here. Get what I can, and then we'll hit it with the Q-tip to get the rest of it. And again, you just want to kind of buff it out a little bit. Pretty interested to see how this stuff's going to work. I can definitely see how it would get in there and give it a nice finish. And you can kind of see just a little tiny bit of residue, but not too much, and it definitely cleans right up without too much fuss, which is kind of nice. Okay, just go ahead and wipe out the inside here. And again, I let it basically get back down to room temperature. Now I'm going to just take a dry Q-tip and just wipe off any excess from the front of the area where the firing pin comes out, in case there's anything left on there. And it's still going to be taking off oil and residue as that Frog Lube is doing its cleaning thing, right? Kind of wipe out the front area here just a little bit, but you want to make sure you leave some in there too. Kind of wipe out the inside. Again, you don't want this completely dry. You got to make sure you leave a little bit in there, right? Okay, you want to wipe out the inside of this channel. There we go. Again, we're going to give it a nice seasoned finish in the words of Jay Dalton. There we go. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that feels and looks. Very nice, actually, very nice. It'll be interesting to see how well it performs. Okay, the first time at the range too. All right, now let's go ahead and work on that lower receiver. So we're going to go ahead and start with the back here and just go ahead and buff this out. Wipe off the bottom. Okay, and then go ahead and wipe off the front. Again, nice, clean microfiber towel, which I'm only going to use this for Frog Lube. Okay, I've been told that's the best way to do it. Go ahead and wipe off what we can. Now, if you're using a regular pistol, you want to make sure you get down in this area with a Q-tip so that you don't have any of that Frog Lube getting around those springs and so on. Just kind of buff this out. It's got a nice slick finish to it. Definitely not rough like it was before when I used the rubbing alcohol. Okay, that's good. Go ahead and get the inside of the trigger guard here. Now, what I'm going to do is go and take my Q-tip and just go ahead and wipe out the inside here. Catch anything that might be left over. Now I'm realizing I did not get any Frog Lube on this particular part right here, but I will catch that the next time I do this, or the next time I clean it off. We're going to run a patch through this too, just one single or two single clean patches just to get any residue out of the barrel that might be in there. Go and wipe out the inside of this area. Kind of just buff it out a little bit. Clean out the inside. I did put a little bit in the mag well just because this whole mag well is basically metal. So it's okay if you put your Frog Lube in here too. It's going to make those magazines basically just slide right out. No problems there. Okay, got that all taken care of. Alright, one thing I want to show you real quick before I forget. Let's go back and take the slide again here. And go ahead and run a clean Q-tip down the firing pin channel. Again, you want to make sure that that's completely dry in here. You don't need anything in here. It's okay. You don't have to have lubricant in there. You can see how it's taken out some of the grit and some of the grime. That's normal and that's okay. And it may be just, you know, slightly conditioned from a little bit of Frog Lube that gets in there. Go ahead and take your Q-tip and not too much pressure, but just wipe off any excess that might be in these channels. But again, you want to make sure you have some on there. Okay, there we go. Let's go back up just a little bit here. Alright, now we'll just take a little bit of a patch here. Hopefully this will just go right through. I'm going to go ahead and push it from the front. I don't want to hit any of these components with my cleaning rod, so that's the reason why I've been using the patch. Let's see if that's going to go through. Let's try this. And we're going to have to definitely cut this in half and use a smaller piece. There we go. Again, this is just the first time I'm doing it, so who knows, I could be doing this completely wrong. You guys feel free to chime in and give me a little bit of advice. Anything you think I should be doing differently. There we go. Just kind of push it through, and you can see it did push some of that crud out on that patch. Let's try that again. Again, I'm just using a regular brass. You could probably put a jag on here if you wanted to. That's up to you. I was just kind of gently pushing this through. There we go. Okay, not too bad. Let me look down the barrel here. Barrel's nice and shiny. I don't see any residue in there. I think we're going to be okay. Alright, and we got this little piece here that's left, this little plug from the rear of the slide. And again, it's going to have kind of a little bit of a waxy, hazy buildup on it. What you want to do is just buff that out, and it's going to start to soak in the pores of the metal. And again, it's going to condition the metal. And I talked to Jay about this, and he said that the longer he's been using it on the guns, the less and less that it takes to clean it off. Basically, what it's doing is it's going to have a protective barrier that the powder is not going to be able to really stick on. It's just going to sit there, and so you can just basically wipe it right off and then just touch it up a little bit with more of the Frog Lube. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, so what I think we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reassemble the pistol. And I'm actually going to do that off camera, just because sometimes this little gun can be kind of complicated. This isn't exactly a disassembly video for the JA22, but the reverse process is more or less what we did before. Go ahead and put your recoil spring, which should be clean by the way from rubbing alcohol, okay, on the back of your firing pin. Make sure your little orange indicator's on there too. Just go ahead and put that back in the channel. It's going to be nice and dry. And you want to put your spring back on your barrel. Okay, it's going to fit right in there. This little plug is going to go on the rear again, just like this. And when you put it back together, you simply pull it over and push down, and it's going to latch into place. But I'm going to do it off camera because sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 times. Even though I've had this gun for a while now, it takes me a couple tries at it before I get it to go back together. So we're going to do that, run the action a little bit on camera, see if it feels any smoother, and we will go from there. So hang tight. Okay, now we do not have a magazine in the firearm, but you can just run the action. It's real nice and smooth. It's got a nice protective finish to it right now. I really have no residue left on my hands. All I do is just wipe it off with the cloth. Let's go ahead and just dry fire. Again, we're empty. Okay, go ahead and again, this gun, like I said, it started having trouble after about 125, 150 rounds at the range non-stop. It would start to get some carbon buildup. So we'll see if this makes a difference. If not, I've got something that's just a little bit easier to clean in the future. Again, pretty much all set to go. It's got a nice protective finish. And I'm going to go back to keeping this as my deep conceal carry gun when I walk the dog. Again, it does feel a little bit slicker, a little bit smoother than just using oil. It's very nice. So once we get it broken in, then again we'll do some touching up and cleaning. cleaning, I need to watch Jay's video on how to clean it. You know, this is how to get you set up with it, but for the cleaning and the future lubrication, we may have to check out some other videos on YouTube, but I wanted to kind of give you the basics of what to do if you want to have this basic Jimenez JA22 and you want to Frog Lube it. So there you go, guys. All right, so my thanks go out to Jay Dalton again for all the information and talking to me on the phone and letting me know about what I need to do. It really was a painless procedure. I'm just sorry it took me 2 months to get the video up on it. I'm pretty impressed overall with what I see, so we'll see how well it performs. And again, it doesn't seem dried out, and it slowly will restore the finish more and more until you have a nice slick finish on it all the way around, which is pretty cool. Again, it helps that it's an all-metal pistol. So anyway, guys, this is Travis P11. Please like or subscribe. D5 for Daniel Pfeiffer, thank you again for sending me the Frog Lube. Finally got a chance to use it, and I think we'll try it on some other guns, and we'll see how it runs on this one, if I notice any difference, or we'll see. Definitely cleanup is going to be the big one, because this gun does get filthy because of the blowback style and all the powder residue that just gets contained in the action area. But otherwise, guys, that's it. Again, please like or subscribe. You can check me out over on VidMe. My channel is Travis P11, and you can follow me on gunchannels.com with the Ordinary Average Guy Gun Channel and Caliber Corner, and as well as my channel Travis P11 over here on YouTube. So I think that's about it, guys. More future videos coming your way. This one is definitely going to be breaking up the order of the videos I've been releasing. I kind of pushed this video up the priority list because we've been waiting for it for a while. I've been waiting to get it done. And this whole procedure was a lot easier than I thought it would be. So anyway, guys, I think that's about it. So I want you guys to have fun. I want you to be safe. Have a great rest of the week. And as you know, we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.